Hello everyone, my name is Linksy and I am now bald. Today I'm going to do another editing tutorial because a lot of you guys have been requesting that I do more, and I got a great response on my last cinematic tutorial. Unfortunately, that tutorial is now out of date, so I'm going to be doing an updated tutorial now on how I do my cinematics and the improvements that I've made to my methods. I'm still using Dollycam and I'm still using Twixtor, so that doesn't change, but just a couple commands and extra things in Dollycam. I thought I might let you guys know. So yeah guys, let's move straight into the updated cinematic tutorial.
This is the year that I come in and just devastate. My style is great, action peoples cannot dominate. My rhymes are harder than last night's erection. Don't blame it close, I have this mic up in your midsection.
Okay guys, so first and foremost, there are two plugins that you're going to need to install to Rocket League in order to get this cinematic look that I'm going to explain in this tutorial. The first and most important is Bakespot Dollycam, and also in this I'm just going to be using Reshade just to show you guys how I record my cinematics with it on. And it does actually help to use Reshade while I'm doing the cinematics because I want to be able to see, you know, how the depth of field looks when I'm on close-up with a car and stuff like that. So first of all, you want to go into your replay and go to the area that you want to start your cinematic. And same thing as before in my previous tutorial. Make sure you type exec space Dollycam, and that will execute the plugin. And I'm bringing up this console by hitting the apostrophe key. The one thing that's different from the last time that I showed you guys how to make cinematics is I'm going to type in dolly underscore interp mode 5. Now the interp mode is the curvature of the path that you make. Now in the last tutorial I was actually using, by hitting P on my keyboard, I was using interp mode 1. Now that is a very average path in between all the points that you place, but interp mode 5 is a more, it's called spline. It's a more specific path based on the points you place. The next command that we're going to type in is dolly underscore spline underscore acc 5000. Now this is just to make sure that we don't get any stuttering when we're using interp mode 5, because it tends to glitch out a little bit. So the first thing we're going to want to do is get our reshade on and go into a position. I usually base it on screenshots, so like if I would take a screenshot here, I would also place a camera. I guess you just kind of have to base it off what image you like. So the first thing we're going to want to do is hit the up arrow on the D-pad on your controller, or on the selection pad on your PS4 controller, and that will place 1 point. Now you can count in between all the points, but like I kind of just do it based on like feeling and like the angles. There's no real like specific way of doing this, but just play the video a tiny bit, pause it, get into a new position that you like, maybe just behind the car like this, and place another camera using the up arrow, and just do the same over and over. And like with interp mode 5, you kind of have to get used to it. You don't really need to use as many cameras as you did with interp mode 1 to make it more specific. You'll see what I mean once I show the path after this. But just every couple of seconds, change the angle. Maybe change the FOV a little bit. So now if I look back at this path, it's very specific. So this is interp mode 5 and this is interp mode 1. So as you can see, there's a huge difference in how specific the path runs along the points. So if we go back to the point before the cinematic took place, so this red line will show you if it's before or after, and hit 1 on your numpad to activate your camera. So I'm just gonna hit O to hide the path again, and if we play this through, there we go, it follows the car in a pretty specific path without using many points. Very nice. So after you guys are finished with that cinematic, you can go ahead and type dolly_path_clear, and that will get rid of the path that you currently had, because you can only do one path at a time. Otherwise it'll attach onto the previous one, it'll get all glitched up. And just make sure you hit 2 as well on your numpad, that'll deactivate the previous path. Okay, so I'm just going to show another example here. Let's say I wanted to do a bit more of a crazy cinematic. The thing with Insert Mode 5 is the more points you place, the more movement that's going to happen. Just based off the curvature of the actual spline. But if I place loads of different keyframes here, you'll see that it changes up a lot. Let's actually continue this a little bit. So you can see this is a great example of what the spline is actually doing. Like, it will always run through the points that you've placed, as opposed to Insert Mode 1, where it would get an average like normal curve in between all the points you've placed. So if I go back to the start of the cinematic and I play it, you see there's a lot more movement. Okay, so I will write a list of commands that I generally use in the console of Dollycam in the description. But there's one specific command that I wanted to show you guys in general, because you can do some pretty cool editing to this, and it's how I have done many different map switches and like cinematic blending. If you type dolly_path_save and just space and then call it whatever, just test, I guess, there is that will save the path. So even if I clear it, I have a path file called test, and actually what I can do is I can open the config of the positions of all those cameras in a notepad, and I can change them around and customize them outside of Rocket League. Alright, so if you guys go to the folder that your Bakes mod is installed to, and you go down to what you named your path as, you'll see I have this test one here. And if we just open this up with Notepad or whatever you guys want to use, you can see we have the frame that the camera was placed at, the FOV, the location, the rotation, etc. You can, if you change these values within here and then you load the path into Rocket League, using dolly_path_load and then the name, it will change the actual values in game as well. So that's really useful if you guys want to edit paths afterwards. I know there's probably simpler ways of doing this, but this tutorial is literally just how I've done effects in the past, and like, even though I might use a slightly harder method, this is just what I do. Alright guys, so I'm just going to quickly head over to After Effects and show you guys again how I do my Twixtor on top of these cinematics. Alright guys, so I'm into my After Effects and I've imported my 2 cinematics here. So I'm not even going to use a song for this, I'm just going to show you guys. Let's see, I'll do like 4-second intervals. I'll just mark these off. So we're going to have the first clip in here. What you need to do is drag this layer so that it just reaches the start of the cinematic, and then I cut. And then I also cut at the place that I wanted to stop as well. At the start it will look just slow like this, because we haven't put any Twixtor on it yet, but it will catch up. So first of all, we just type in Twixtor to our effects and presets. This is a plugin you're gonna have to install yourself. It doesn't come with After Effects. So just double click that. So we have it on our layer. We want to make sure that our input frame rate is the same as our native frame rate of the recording file, so 60. It doesn't matter what your comp is in, as long as you just have the input at 60. Motion sensitivity all the way up to 100. Frame interpretation nearest instead of blend. And then just on this, make sure you're on this first keyframe of the layer. Hit the stopwatch on the speed of 100. Then hit U. Now what we want to do is that stands as like a a starting point. So it will start at the native speed of this layer at this point. And we want to hit the page down key on our keyboard, so that goes to the next frame, and then change this to something like, I usually use like 800 if it's a fast song, 600 if it's something a little more slow, and then just go to the last frame, place another 800 keyframe, and go right in the middle of those two keyframes, and put it at like 100 or 200. And then what you're going to need to do is drag over all those keyframes and hit F9. F9 will easy ease, and it'll give you these weird double triangle keyframes. And then click on the graph editor. So now we have this little U-shaped graph, but it's not quite in the shape that we want it. So just click on the square keyframe here, and just drag this little tool thing down. Drag these ones across. You can hold shift and click on these, and it will go in a straight line. So make sure you get this nice smooth U shape in your graph editor. Now it's okay if it goes over a little bit, you can fix that. So I know that this is overshooting, so it's a little bit too fast. So if I change this is the middle speed of 200 to 100, it will, yeah, it's perfect. It will even up. You just kind of have to play with the speeds. Feel it for yourself. So if I play through this, you'll see it's fast, and then it's slow, and then it speeds up again. And usually within montages, especially, and editing, you'll have some sort of like fast, slow, fast, slow, fast, slow kind of velocity between different clips. I mean, you can play, there's different ways of doing it, like you don't have to use that exact composition of velocity, but the general flow of cinematics are fast, slow, fast, slow. So we're just going to do that again for the other cinematic. And I want the goal explosion to hit here, and I did record a little bit after the goal explosion, so I'll just place it out a little bit. Keep in mind, I'm not using a song to sync with, so I'm just kind of doing it, playing it by ear, or not by ear, by eye. So again, just 800, 800, 100. You don't have to use this exact speed, as I said. This is just to show you guys an example of how I do the graphs. You could place like multiple keyframes inside here and do like multiple U shapes or whatever you feel works. So it's almost there, as you can see. Okay, so I wanted this to line up with the goal explosion, but it's not at the goal explosion. It's viewing the car. So there's a couple ways you could do this. We could change the first keyframe from 100 to like 102 or something that like levels it out so that this is the goal explosion point, or we could just up the scale of this slightly, and yeah, that's almost there. 155 might do. No, 160. It's almost there. 170. There we go. So the ball is like kind of just inside the goal, about to explode. And we're just gonna even this off a little bit. Now if you look through this all together, pretty clean. It is a little slow, but I just did it within seconds. I didn't sync it to a song or anything like that. But yeah, that's pretty much all it is that I do for my cinematics. The only change was that I use a different interpretation mode now. It's a lot easier to make more specific cinematics. Like you have a lot more control over your focal point in the cinematics using Interpret Mode 5. So that's really handy. And also just the stuff about saving paths, and I'll have a couple more commands in the description to help you guys as well, because there's actually a lot more in Dollycam than I've explained here. it would take too long to go into detail in all of them. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it was helpful, and I want to do more things like these in future, maybe more even just fun editing videos to do with myself or some other editors in the community. So just leave some comments down below, you know, maybe suggest some series I could do, or what other tutorials you guys want me to make. And yeah, see you later, boys.